William?
Stop running from your demons and face them.
Abuse, trauma. These women had nobody.
Something bad happened to this place.
He's got to get his ass back on that boat.
See you. When you don't do things by the book, you risk losing everything.
It is a mess over here.
Sister wanted to talk. Why don't you?
Babble Talk is not filmed in front of a live studio audience. First of all, I wanted to talk to you about something I read about this movie that is very interesting to me, that I couldn't shake off, was the fact that you said that in an interview that tone is everything to you, right? That the tone of a movie is everything, and that you try to make that movie as rich as you could. What did you mean by that?
Well, I find, you can have the greatest cast in the world, you can have an amazing script, but if you get the tone wrong, things can feel false. They can feel like they're not in the right film. And I find, me as a director, I feel like that's one of the biggest, obstacles you have as a director, is you want to make sure that that tone is right. And, for a film like this, we're dealing with some very serious subject matter. And I wanted that to feel heavy. I wanted there to be a mysterious and scary element. I wanted it to feel, like have almost a documentary feel, where it's, there's a, it feels like there really is something at stake. And, that's kind of my best way of explaining, what tone is for me. Like sometimes you want to deliver on the premise. If someone goes to a movie to be scared, it better be scary. If someone says it's a comedy, you better make me laugh. So I just, I really wanted to try and do my best to get the tone right for the subject matter.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. It's true that I agree with you that sometimes something feels off in a movie if not everything comes around. It's why people often say that making a good movie is way harder than making a bad movie, and there's nothing harder than making a good movie. I agree with you, but it's such a great answer. I'm kind of finding my words here. Can you describe the movie kind of give me an elevator pitch of the movie?
Sure. So Thunderbird is a supernatural crime drama about a young man who's looking for his missing sister. And he has a history with his family in this small town where he lives, where there's clearly some tension going on. Hey, there's Natalie.
Hey, how you doing?
Don't mind me. I don't want to interrupt. I love hearing Nicolas wax poetic any chance I can. Hi, Nathan. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hi.
So sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, no. So Nathan just wanted, what's the kind of elevator pitch? And, we were just talking about tone, but, the elevator pitch is, Thunderbird, it's a supernatural crime drama about a young man who's looking for his missing sister. And unfortunately, his family has had a bit of a murky past in this small town. And there's some racial tension, and this is a dangerous little town for him to be poking his nose around. Now, Ivy Seymour is a bit of a big city cop who's come to this small town because she's passionately trying to crack this case. And there's been this body that's been found. And, it's kind of terrifying, but it's something that she's not afraid to dive in and try and solve. And now, Seymour and Will, their paths cross, and they in turn try and help each other solve the each of their own mystery. Now, there are big themes that, and one of them that we've talked a little bit about is just fear of the unknown and confronting your worst fear. And interestingly enough, Ivy's character and and Will's character both have to do this in order to move forward. And so they're kind of both, there's a lot at stake for them to kind of be doing what they're doing.
Yeah. So welcome to Babble Talk, you two. It's the show you're on. I'm really excited to talk to you, Natalie Brown. Welcome. And yeah, like you said, we're talking about the tone and the elevator pitch of the movie. And I wanted to know, as one of the leads of the movie, what was the research you did for this character to portray this character, Natalie? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, I spoke at length with Nicolas, knowing that he wanted to tell a story that was, the very unglossy version of detective work. We've become accustomed to, the glossier TV detective. And this is a woman who's immersed in the Pacific Northwest, so it has a very different look, a different feel, my appearance and in the performance. And Nicholas has said that he's been very inspired by strong, singular female characters. Whether it's Sigourney Weaver's, performance in Alien. And there are some comparisons people have drawn to The Killing, but again, it's set in the Pacific Northwest, and a doggedly determined detective who has to go a little bit rogue and uses some unorthodox tactics because she also has made mistakes in her past. And this is as much about her getting back in the saddle, confronting the mistakes from the past in order to move forward. In this case, is really important to her.
Reading descriptions and things about the movie, I've heard and I've seen that there is kind of like a racial tension in the movie with the indigenous people. For I know that for you, Nicholas, and it was important to portray that. It was important to be respectful for that. And can you talk about the lengths you went to make sure that that happened?
Absolutely. Yeah. So on the mainland in Vancouver, we got to know the Coast Salish people, and we wanted to do everything as authentically and to have everyone's blessing. And we had Maurice Nahani was our elder from the Coast Salish community in Vancouver. And then on Vancouver Island, there was hereditary chief David Knox, who is of the Kwagio First Nation. And in order to kind of depict, Will and really confronting, the past, we had to see him interacting with a culture that we don't want to fake, and we want to make it as real as possible. So we needed their guidance and we needed their mentorship, and they even granted us permission to use their hereditary sacred masks and to see their special dances. And, it was, on one hand, Will has to, yes, there is racial tension. And, I don't think there's any place on the planet that hasn't dealt with some sort of racial tension. And, this is, specific to the Pacific Northwest, but it was so important for us to shine some light on the actual beauty of these cultures and their oral tradition and their connection to the legends. And we couldn't have done it without them. It was, for me, that was a deal breaker. We either did it for real, and that made it extra special.
I totally uh, agree with what you're saying. It's true that when I did my research, you communicate with the Coast Salish for that movie, and I thought that was extremely important, especially in that talk of diversity that we hear all the time right now in Hollywood. And I think it is extra important to be respectful of those cultures, especially if you know their past and know how that lack of knowledge and respect has led in the past to um, absolutely monstrous, what I would say monstrous behavior. But Natalie, I was wondering how that whole tension affected your character, and how is she trying to navigate in this movie?
One of the aspects of the script that drew me to this was that it touches on the difficult subject of missing and murdered women. And for far too long, you know, these things have gone unanswered. And, you know, so what drove me to the project and the script is also what drives my character. And you know, she wants to give a voice to the voiceless. And she's come up against an old system and a lot of excuses. And you know, she's hoping to make a difference. Now, you know, this film doesn't set out to solve any of those things, but I'm glad that it isn't afraid to include these very difficult themes. And it's something that is, you know, also part of our nation's dark past. So, you know, the theme of the movie is about being able to actually face the darkness, face the demons, admit the mistakes we made in the past in order to move forward. And so I feel like it's a really important theme in the movie and in our lives as Canadians.
Mm. What drew you to that script, Natalie? First of all, sorry, maybe it's a weird question. Did you audition for that role, or was it given to you? And what drew you to that character?
It was one of these rare moments. You know, you spend the better part of a year auditioning for multiple projects that we don't get. And then along comes Nicolas and this, you know, really well written, thoughtful, uniquely engaging mystical script. And I'm still not 100% sure what it was that, you know, Nicolas in, because again, I don't think you had seen anything specific I'd done in the past. Maybe Nicolas can answer better, but I was very honored to be asked to be a part of something that was so near and dear to his heart.
Well, I'm all about energy. And I think it's like my strength and my weakness is that I'm a pretty sensitive guy. But the strong side of it is I can tell everything about a person with very little amount of time. And we chatted and there was just, I don't know, I knew that Natalie had the energy and the passion and the talent. And I felt it, you know, I could see it in her eyes. And, you know, it just, sometimes it feels right. And I just think, you know, your brain's telling you one thing, your heart's telling you another, and your gut's telling you another. And I just always go with my gut. So that was it.
Yeah. So
And the first day is always nervous because we hadn't met in person yet. We'd only spoken like this over Zoom. And my first day was also my first scene, Ivy Seymour's first scene, where, you know, I arrive on set, she arrives to the community in a boat. And, you know, you're confronted with this, you know, horrific finding of a mysteriously murdered woman. And that definitely, you know, set the tone for the rest of the film. And I believe Nicolas has said to me that what was in your head, there's always something really special about manifesting something that exists only in your head. And to be a part of a creator's manifestation is always, to me, what's so special about being an actor. And Nicolas, that first day, did say to me that, you know, everything that you had imagined in your head was playing out in real time. And so it's always really special to be able to honor that and be a part of that process.
yeah.
Yeah, I was emotional. I really was, you know, and I
made him cry. I didn't want to say it, but I made him cry.
Yeah, well, you know, so much goes into it, right? And your cast, you live and die by your cast. They're what people are coming to see. And yeah, it was just right. And, you know, as a filmmaker, you know, you're trying to do everything you can to make the world real for your cast. You know, you sweat over everything. You want to make sure the gun is right, the badge is right. You want to make sure everything feels right, that they, you know, that. And yeah, that was just a little bit of magic. You know, the movie gods sprinkled a little magic on us that day. And yeah, setting the tone is so important. And Natalie set the tone right away.
But all those details you're talking about, details and all those little elements that are so important, it's also interesting to remind people that will listen to this, that this is an indie film. This is not a big budget film. So as a director, was that there must have been an incredible amount of pressure to especially that that project, you've been developing it for years, right? There must be so much pressure to perform, to make a great end product.
Well, not like for me, honestly, I never felt pressure. The only time I feel pressure is if I'm unprepared, and I was really prepared. I pitched the movie that I wanted to make, and the production company said yes. I wrote, in a couple months, I wrote the first draft. We ripped it up. We talked about what did we like, what did we not like. I knew where, I had my North Star. I knew where I wanted to go. I spent another couple months, and after that, 5 months in, I kind of had pretty much the script that we shot. I don't know. Like, I don't think you can make a movie if you feel pressure. So, I just wanted to, all I cared, only pressure that I put on myself was just make it work. Have it work, have it deliver on the premise, allow the characters to have natural journeys and find that finish line when you're done. And I just think like the script is the blueprint, and I think everyone was on board with the script. So I think we were okay. I think if it's not in the script, there's no magic on set that's going to save it. In my experience, there's not. But yeah, I didn't feel any pressure. I just knew what I had to do and stuck to the script, tried to stick to my guns. And when you have someone like Natalie who's delivering for you every day, it's like Natalie was like my shield. She was like, I was like, Natalie, you're my shield. You're the glue that's connecting everything together. Everything could go off the rails, but when and so that's why, filmmaking is about a team. It's a team effort, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. And that's the best part of my job, I think, is I just love actors so much that to get to work with an actor and try and help them be the best that they can. And that collaboration is just the best.
And you're an actor yourself. So knowing that, you've been in many positions, like you said, everyone wore several hats, especially when this was like as indie as a BC independent production can be. I think we were the only independent feature happening. The city was so busy with, servicing American productions that it was really difficult to crew a show. I had just come off a bigger budget American series shooting in Vancouver. And even on that production, they were like just scrambling to find crew members. And this particular production had so many people that had just arrived to Vancouver from various parts of the world looking for some experience. But you also had the leadership to trust people to, bring their best work. And a lot of people that had only been assistants were now keen, so it all comes down to you having the faith in everyone to do their job and also working really collaboratively. So it was quite the family affair. We were really all in it together.
It was.
It seems like you really have found that creative I don't know if even know how to call it, but that creative passion to make that project happen. I was wondering, Nicolas, did you have any visual goals or inspiration in mind when you set out to write and direct this movie? Did you think, oh, it should maybe be like a Midnight in Paris, but very earthly at some points, and completely Blade Runner at some other points?
Like there were many, like Alfonso Chin is the name of our very talented cinematographer. And, when I met with DPs, he was the one right away. Like I wanted to talk paintings. I wanted to make I didn't want to run around handheld and give it some kind of low budget indie feel. Like I'm a disciple of like the Denis Villeneuve school of filmmaking, or like, David Fincher or Ridley Scott. Like they care so much about where you place the camera. And, that's very ambitious because you can get a lot more done in a day when you're running around with two cameras. But, Alfonso and I, we really cared about setting up the camera and embracing all of the sets and the locations and everything to try to help add to the story. So, like there's no one film that was an inspiration, but it's more of just, many films. And Yeah. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to. This is incredible. You quoted Villeneuve, one of my favorite directors ever. Uh,
And
wow.
even what's funny is I saw an interview with Denis, and he said that there was this film a long, long time ago that I think he was working on. He used to do documentary filmmaking, and it was literally just I think some men, in a lake in Quebec, and they're just fishing. And it's so funny when I saw it because like our film starts with guys fishing on a boat too. I think yeah, like I love his films. Again, the tone of his films it's always right, and it's the right amount of heaviness, but yet a little that my background in doc work and reality, I think it comes through too, where it allows people to play a little bit.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned that, but people say that you mentioned the script, but people say often that a movie is made three times: when we write it, when we shoot it, and when we edit it.
Mhm.
Uh, you've had the chance to write it, to shoot it, and to edit it. So my question is, did it end up to be exactly like you wanted to be in terms of like how faithful to the script it was?
Yeah, like pretty darn close, like there was a major difference. The film actually started out in the first or draft of the script of the children, young Will and young Sarah, and it kind of started with a bit of a prologue setting up the past. And in the edit, I felt I wanted to get to the story. I wanted to meet current Will. I wanted to meet Natalie's character. I wanted to kind of just get the ball rolling with the story, and then kind of sprinkle in the flashbacks later. I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks, so I like little nuggets of information peppering a film, but there's something about the flashback. I don't like to live too long there. But on paper, that's kind of how it started, and that changed. Um, yeah, like it was, like again, it had to be the preparation and the writing of the script really had to be pretty tight and have a really solid plan, because we didn't have the time or money to be willy-nilly. We had to kind of stick to the plan. So for the most part, it turned out the way that I wanted, but that one structural element did change.
Hmm, this is very interesting. Uh, I was also wondering, because you mentioned, Natalie, some of the qualities that Nicolas has as a director. Uh, um, what other qualities did you see when you were being directed by him?
He just instills a sense of safety. And again, when you have this really solid structure, like, Nicholas said it best, like you can't really save a bad script with good performances. And the script itself was so strong, and he gave us the freedom to know that if we stuck to the script, we were already in really good hands. But also, being an actor's director and an actor himself, like we had the freedom to play. And it was never like one and done, moving on. Like I've been on some indie films where you really feel the constraints and pressure of a low budget, but they were very careful to put the budget on screen as much as possible. Like there were no hair and makeup trailers, no one had a trailer to go to. Everyone was, well, there was one trailer that was basically for everybody whenever somebody needed somewhere to go or change, and it was all hands on deck. And yeah, I mean, Nicholas set the tone, and the trickle effect was very
So
much felt in every department.
yeah, so hearing you two talk about this movie, I feel like there was no ad-libbing on set. It was all very faithful to the script, right?
Only because it was good. Like I don't like I like to have a little bit of freedom, and there was definitely a lot of space between the lines. So I feel like a lot of that freedom wasn't so much in changing the dialogue. It was the freedom to let the characters live between the lines, you
Mhm.
know, um, to be able to actually see the character's thought process before you speak, to really feel relationships, between her and Aaron's character or Fletcher, you know, where you can sort of see and feel that they're really butting heads without having to write that into the script. So it wasn't that we were felt in any way forced to stick to it. It was just a really solid backbone. And again, just the liberty to let it breathe.
Mm. This is incredible. Yeah. And I was wondering, Nicholas, when you were writing the script, were there themes or aspects that you absolutely wanted to explore, that you felt like I have to put that in the movie, and also aspects that you didn't feel like were necessary, maybe too cliche, anything like this?
I've got one. Well, first of all, from the very beginning, Nicholas, like I said, let me know that this wasn't going to be like a glossy TV version of a detective. So it was like a very natural look, and it was don't be afraid to get wet and dirty and comfortable. And you're going to be wearing the same thing for days on end as this, character would when she shows up, and has a motel room she only ever goes back to once to shower. But also, I really wanted to flesh out more on screen, perhaps, some of Seymour's backstory. And I kept trying to insert, because the only snippet we get of her backstory is in her motel room. We see the newspaper clipping of, how she'd been suspended for 6 months. We understand that she made some mistakes in the past, and this is her chance to try to rectify things, at least for herself, and also try to make a difference in the world. But, even if it's one case at a time. And I kept wanting to insert, a photo of who it was whose death she was avenging, or who she was trying to prove herself to, or what her raison d'etre was. And Nicholas,
I love the fact that you added some French in it. It was amazing. I'm French. I love it.
mais oui, bien sûr, avec plaisir. And Nicholas, again, like, he was open to listening to any idea, and you said the best idea always wins. But he did stick to his guns and just say, we don't need to spell everything out. As long as I know my backstory, the audience doesn't need to see it. And right after, the next day, I happened to see a Nick Kroll skit on the Kroll show that I think it was called like The Dead Girl Files. And it made fun of every detective show that has to be avenging someone's sister, someone's daughter, someone's niece, someone's, and it was making fun of that very trope that I was fighting for.
Wow.
And I'm glad Nicolas stuck to his guns. And again, you heard me out. You're very open. But again, that's what makes me continue to trust someone, when they're open to ideas, but also very clear with their vision. And he was.
Wow. Oh my God. Yeah, this is absolutely wow. Nicholas, you're incredible. Like I didn't realize it, but yes, this is a cliche. The detective that tries to avenge it's in every TV show, Mentalist. Now I'm thinking about it. It's actually like, wow, my brain is kind of like incredible.
It's cool. Like I dig it. It's just, I find, some incarnations of this story are a little bit more pragmatic, and they're less about it. And sometimes I'm okay with the mystery. I just think audiences are so smart these days that I think they need to, I want them to lean into the movie and scratch and claw and want to know more. And some of my favorite films and characters are a bit of a mystery to me. They don't answer every question. And sometimes I want, to understand a full motivation is intriguing. So, I want actors to always feel like they have the motivation, they have the texture, they have, the collage already there, whatever they need for them to feel right, I feel is very important. But yeah, this was just one of those moments where I'm like, yeah, like it's good, but I just want, be a bit more, let's just focus on the pragmatic side of it. And we don't need to lean too deep into that, But like, as far as theme, without going into all the themes, like obviously the fear of the unknown and confronting your fear. And, I get like, even like, it's not so much that Will has prejudice or racism in his heart. It's a bit of the sins of the father, it's where maybe our previous generation was not where we are today, but you suffer because of that. So, there is a little bit of that. But for me, like theme, whenever I'm lost writing, I go back to theme. Theme is a bit of a guiding, it helps me with structure. I always find if I'm floundering or something's not working, it's because I've lost focus from theme, and theme kind of is my map to get back on track. one thing that just really quickly, you asked, what are some things that didn't go as planned? This was, I just didn't think of it, but this was probably the biggest one. The fight scene, you know, that Hawkins and Will have was this elaborate thing. And it was supposed to be huge, and there was dialogue and all kinds of things that were supposed to happen. And, you know, the sun's going down. I have 3 hours. I have a crew that's staring at me, that's terrified. And I had just recently watched Apocalypse Now. And I just had that scene in it where he's killing Kurtz, but they intercut him killing the cow, the sacrificial cow. The tribes people are doing it by the fire. And I just had this flash. I'm like, it's the fishing, it's the gutting of the fish, it's the hook, it's flashes, it's more visceral and quick. And so there's an example where, you know, creativity solved a problem, because I didn't have a hose to just shoot money all over the place and solve problems with money. So yeah, you got to think fast on your feet, and I'm glad it worked out.
So
Yeah.
I have a question, because I think the blood rig, there was only one blood rig and it didn't go as planned. So did you actually save it in the edit as opposed to on the day?
Well, like there was something on Hawkins, like, is that what you mean? Like, yeah. And it was like, you know, there was something, and it was one of those ones that's capable of, like, you know, a Friday the 13th slasher explosion of blood onto the wall. But this is not that kind of film, you know, like I remember hearing, you know, there's that moment in the movie Seven where, you know, Mills is talking about this guy this cop that got shot in the stomach, and he died right there. And that's so much more real. It's not like, you know, Bruce Willis wrestling the helicopter down from the sky, you know, like that's a great film. There's a room for that film, but this wasn't that film. So I think the minimalism of the violence and seeing the blood and watching someone pass away is that was more realistic to me. So yeah, we didn't get, you know, the camera didn't get spritzed with blood, but this wasn't that kind of film.
Incredible. I was wondering, are any of you fans of like serial killers or true crime stuff? And Nicolas, did that, if you do or do not, did that affect the way you wrote the movie?
I'm not a fan. I think everyone's kind of darkly fascinated by it a little bit, because it's such an outlying, strange, weird thing. But like Natalie was saying, like, this is an actual problem. Like, there are, you know, that's another theme. There are monsters out there. There are bad elements out there. And I guess I've always been fascinated as to the why. And I think, unfortunately, society is, you know, it's maybe systemic, whether society or maybe might have a factor in why some people distance themselves from society. And, you know, you see sociopathic tendencies in a lot of these individuals. And it's, you know, it's something that's real. It's something that's terrifying. Yeah, I'm not a fan, but definitely fascinated by the darkness.
And you, Natalie, maybe no, not at all, not at all. So it wasn't something that interested you. You were like, oh, I get to be opposed to that. No,
I'll force myself in the name of research, but I've been plagued by nightmares since I was like a young child, a recurring nightmare. And so I tend to live my life in a way that sort of avoids that. But just like the theme of the film, you know, what you resist persists. And, you know, I remember trying to watch Mindhunter, and it's fascinating because, you know, every episode is based on a real monster. And after watching one episode, I had the most horrific nightmare of my life. And I've had a lot of them. And I thought, I'm a very sensitive person, for better or for worse. And I feel like I have to sometimes protect my psyche, but I also need to be willing to go there in order to portray these people and be able to swim in these waters. Again, you can't just avoid it because it's there. You need to be able to, like, you know, stare the darkness in the face. And so I keep working in this genre that terrifies me. And it's not a coincidence that I really don't like horror. I never have. This isn't a horror film per se, But in my career, I just sort of continuously tend to work in these darker arenas. And I think that there's still, there's growth to be found. And, you can run, but you can't hide.
Wow. So this is very interesting to me because it says that to me, you're saying that what interests you in that character, the character that you're portraying, is the light inside the character rather than the darkness. Can that summarize it pretty much?
You said it more beautifully than I did. So thank you. Merci.
Yeah.
Merci beaucoup.
And we had, we had many discussions about like Silence of the Lambs, like here you have, Dr. Lecter is, you have, he definitely is the, makes a lot of noise when that film poster is kind of like comes out and it hits the movie screen, but it's Clarice Starling that is the one that we're on her journey, and where, that's there was definitely some elements there where there's, it's interesting to see, whether it's the brilliant detective or, a brilliant FBI agent in a film. It's interesting when you see what it was in their past that brought them to where they are. And that mystery is okay. I feel that it's the psychology of all of it that's very, very interesting. And, we needed, this film is all about light and dark, and you kind of have a choice. And we're dancing that line of light and dark all the time. And, yeah, you just hope you end up as a beacon of light and don't get sucked into the black hole.
So hearing you, I'm wondering even if I'm wondering if would you be interested if the studio says, "Oh, we want a similar movie now." Do you feel like you want to direct it, or maybe even like a sequel in the same vein in the same vein?
Saying yes has been a powerful word in my whole career, because I've said yes to some odd projects that ended up turning into really incredible serendipitous moments. So I just think, everything should be on the table if you are an artist, and I think you should be open to ideas. For me, it's just story and character. I would need, what am I going to be hanging my, movies take a lot of time. So if I'm going to be spending my time with these characters in this story, I think as long as there's a bit of a conversation to talk about what it is and how it's going to work, then yeah, I love a good conversation. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Well, Seymour's still there. She said, I think I'm going to stick around for a little bit,
Yeah, definitely.
And there's plenty of work to do there, that's for sure.
Oh, sure. So I'm wondering, when did you shoot that movie? When did the production start?
So we shot it in the summer of 2017. Okay. Post-production took an entire year. Okay. We had a lot of music and effects, and we didn't have a lot of money. So unfortunately, when you don't have tons of money, it takes time. So we finished the film, and then we were ready, and we started our festival run, and we had a global pandemic.
Yeah, definitely.
So it kind of, the film was on the shelf for a little bit, but we took a big deep breath, and now we're out into the world. So it seems like a very long time, but yet it also seems like it wasn't a long time at all. So yeah, that's when it was. We shot it summer 2017.
Wow. This is incredible. Like,
I know.
Yeah, like you must feel like this is your baby. You're finally giving it to the world. You're finally ecstatic to see the people seeing it. And I have a question. Can you two watch your own reviews? Like, are you interested in watching the reviews for this movie, or you're gonna avoid it as much as you can?
Natalie?
I might try to avoid it, but I'm also not afraid of it because I'm very curious what people think. And having been to Whistler, and it was the first time I was able to see it with an audience, just because I'm on, an opposite coast, and seeing it, be well received, and also seeing, a lot of people ask some like very pertinent questions, and Nicolas was able to answer them all with grace. And then he was nominated. That film was nominated at Whistler for best feature, and this was your first feature, and you were up alongside what ended up being Oscar runners. Like what, the only movie that beat you ended up nominated for an Oscar that year. So I'm so proud of him, and I think that I'm an inquisitive person, and I'm always curious to see how something in a piece of art affects people. I think it's all valid.
Mm.
I like it when it's positive, of course. But,
Yeah.
and I think when it's not positive, it's an opportunity to grow. You don't have to take it to heart, but I feel like we need to listen to each other more and more all the time and listen
Yeah,
to.
I agree with everything Natalie's just said. And yeah, like I'm always interested because I just want to know if the movie works for people. When you're very close to something, it's hard to have perspective. And, so it's nice for people that have no idea, they're coming in really cold. That's the best way to see a movie. I mean, stay the hell away from trailers. Like just go to the movies and dive in. And that's the best way. But yeah, I was curious, and I'm a movie nerd, right? Like I love filmmakers. I love writers, actors, directors, cinematographers. Like that's my thing. So when I look at filmmakers, I always look, what was their first film? It's like when you look at Tarantino and Reservoir Dogs or Christopher Nolan and the following, like it's interesting to see that first film. And I had some opportunities to do some other films previously, and the scripts weren't right. And this was an opportunity to write and direct something. And so I wanted to have something to say, and I wanted to just, whatever's up there, walk away knowing that, I was passionate about every aspect, and that's it. So yeah, the idea of giving birth to your first film is very exciting and very terrifying all at once. But I'm really happy with it. And I just hope it works for people. And I hope people get a chance to see it and dig it.
Wow, you said it all, and it should be noticed that it's your first film, and you were nominated for that film, and that shows that you have done a really good job, and I congratulate you, and I also thank you because you're reaching the end of the interview, and you were amazing, and honestly, you flew by my questions with amazing answers, and I honestly can't wait to watch the film and see what you've done. And thank you again. It was incredible for me. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Nicolas.
My pleasure. You are so kind. Thank you so much. It's an honor, and I'm so excited that people can finally see it. Multiple places, multiple, platforms. The Thunderbird finally takes flight.
Thank you.
Agreed. Yes. No, thank you, Nathan. I like it. Nicholas, Nathan, Natalie, the three.
Yay! We need like a brand of ice cream or something. Nicholas, Nathan, and Natalie.
Yeah.
Love
Thank
it.
you again. Wow. Amazing.
Aw, all the best to you. And thanks,
Thank you
Nicholas.
so much. Yeah, this
Thanks
was
for
great.
having me along for your wild ride.
No, this is the best. This is just the beginning.
I love it. Yes, encore, s'il vous plaît.
Au revoir. Au revoir.
Au revoir. À bientôt. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Nathan.